hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
All right. Tell everybody who I'm talking to.
This is Marc Brew, Mark Anthony Brew. I'm from Washington State.
Mark. Well, we're happy to hear from you, Mark.
Hi, Mark. It's Helena. How are you? What's going on? How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. The bombshell reporting that happened this morning about feds being involved or somebody being involved, at least provocateurs being involved in the J6 riot stuff, and using hand signals, which is classic Antifa Bolshevik communist move. I think this is really great because this week I have a court complaint claim that I'm turning into a high-level senator against the judge, James E. Bosberg, who is a secret society member. The tort claim's going against him and a real piece of work, Michael Gordon, who thinks he's just the bee's knees. So that tort claim is going to go on the back of the fact that they held an illegal court, that they are a for-profit corporation, and they had no judicial contract to even try me. So I know that seems very unusual to a lot of Americans, but these courts are fraud, and they can only get you into their court and they can only get you into their jurisdiction by force and by tacit consent. So when they tell you, when they ask you questions, you got to be real careful because what they're doing is they're trying to get you to answer so that you get into contract with them. So I haven't done any of that. Any of the stuff that I've done has been cocaine, compliance, and torture, and the threat of murder. Because when they picked me up in Vancouver, Washington, with their military occupation, using military tactics against the civilians, they told me that they would shoot me if I didn't do exactly what they said, and they never produced a warrant. They never read any rights. So they forced me into their contracts and trafficked me in several jurisdictions.
Wow. Well, good luck with that.
Yeah.
The court system here is obviously not favorable at all to us J6ers, so I wish you all the luck in the world with that.
Well, the thing is, the point is to go outside of the jurisdiction of the government, and you can do that because they're a private government. Therefore, they're in private law. So they're no different than a corporation. If you look them up on the Duns and Bradstreet website or the new SAM's website for corporations, they are a for-profit corporation, and they cannot have authority over the public unless you give them your tacit consent. So it's just like when you sign up for a club card at Costco. You signed up for that card, therefore you agreed to follow their guidelines for shopping. Right. Same thing with the federal government.
And when is that going to be heard? Is that this week, you said?
This week.
All right. Well, we'll be definitely keeping you in our prayers for that.
Yep. So the main thing is that probably won't hear anything about it for a while, but it's going to the weaponization of government committee.
Okay.
And so it's going to go somewhere.
All right. Well, hopefully it falls in some hands that will actually do something about it. Unfortunately, there's been a lot of contact made with politicians and not a lot has come out of it, but we have had some baby wins, so hopefully you'll get one of those baby wins.
I think honestly, a lot of things have been put on a control mechanism for timing.
Right.
They've started to disclose that January 6th was planned by an inside job, and they've got 2 FBI whistleblowers talking about it in detail. So I think that with Tucker Carlson episode 15 that he did with Stefan's son.
Steven's son, yeah.
From the Capitol. Yeah, I guess that's his name. Putting those things together is going to be paramount to the next step. So we're taking them out of their jurisdiction. We're not dealing with them in their jurisdiction.
Right.
We're taking them to international jurisdiction, which means anybody can prosecute them. Who's above that, even other countries.
Right.
So, the federal government is going to pay for what they did.
I hope so. From your lips to God's ears.
Yeah, amen.
Mark, do you have a Give, Send, Go or anything that you would like to talk about? Maybe help to raise funds for yourself?
Well, Mark, the last time you and I spoke, you asked me to share out your Give, Send, Go, and I did that, and I actually did have an opportunity to speak to your mom as well about trying to find you some help with that as well. But tell everybody on the live stream, because I know that you're going to need funding for all of these legal motions that you're trying to file. So let everybody know what your Give, Send, Go is and how they can donate to you.
Yeah, so you can go to https://giftsandgo.com, and then it's under J6 politically persecuted.
All right. What is
and
your...
I got
I'm sorry, go ahead.
and I do have somebody that is going to start putting updates on there so that people can follow along that I am actually doing something with the money, and it's not going to these bottomless pits called lawyers.
Yeah, I've definitely not seen very many lawyers in D.C. that are worth paying for.
Yeah, and nobody wants to do it because they're threatened to get sanctioned or disbarred, so they're not touching it.
Right.
But this is actually an international. It's actually an international crime, a war crime that they're committing. And the prosecutor in my fake trial, who at the kangaroo court, he said to the judge that I'm a sovereign citizen, and I have objected to that before many times, and that is attempted murder, because a sovereign citizen is a domestic terrorist according to international law. And so when they call you a sovereign citizen in court, you better rebut it quick.
Right.
But that's how they're prosecuting me, and they're doing it using the Patriot Act, which they shouldn't be using. Congress said not to use it, but they're doing it anyway.
Yeah, this federal government has definitely gone crazy. They do all kinds of stuff that, it's unfortunate because we see people come in for trials and they're so hopeful and they have this belief in the judicial system and that things are going to turn around because, they have a righteous case, and they do have righteous cases. And in any other court in this country, it would be a completely different story. But here in D.C., it's status quo. It doesn't matter what is brought out in trial and what evidence is uncovered, what witnesses are impeached. It's guilty, guilty, guilty. And these prosecutors are pretty much phoning it in at this point. They're so sloppy with their cases. They gave jury instructions the other day to a jury, and they didn't redact the instructions as they were supposed to. But they were just told, don't worry about that, just overlook that. Yeah. In any other courtroom, in any other county in the nation, that would be an immediate mistrial. But not here in D.C. because it doesn't matter. They went through the rubber stamp process of providing you a trial, and now, the rubber stamp is coming and you're guilty, guilty, guilty.
As far as I know, I'm the only one that has said that they have no jurisdiction and that they have no contract for even conducting court. And so by challenging their jurisdiction, I do believe that I can actually hold them accountable, because I'm not asking them to take a look at their own misconduct. I'm bringing in people in higher authority than them that is going to take a look at the case.
Well, that's awesome. I'm glad that you have the opportunity to do that because it absolutely needs to be done. There's a lot of these cases that need to be looked over by these politicians to see exactly what is going on in these courthouses. And we beg for, politicians to send staffers into these courtrooms so that they can find out what's really happening, because it's an atrocity and it's absolutely trampling on our First Amendment, on all of our amendments, on our constitutional rights.
Well, within the federal, since they are a corporation, you are dead to rights. And so I don't claim constitutional rights or any of their rights because I don't want to go into contact with them. And that's the fix. You got to understand what a right is as an agreement. And so when you do that, that's what gives them their authority, because that's when they ask you, do you understand, and are you standing under their authority? And so, you've got to, the devil is in the details. You got to know that that's what they're doing, is they're using legalese instead of actually adhering to the law. But there are still Americans out there, like the people that I'm involved with and myself, that still have value in the law, and we're going to bring it to them.
Well, I'm glad that you're doing that, and I'm glad that you're standing up for yourself and taking this government to task, and I wish more people would do it.
What everybody needs to understand is that what Thomas Jefferson said was absolutely correct, that governments are instituted by men, capitalized, meaning private government, and their just powers are derived from the consent of the governed. I don't get consent, and none of us should have been giving any consent.
Right. Well, unfortunately, a lot of just common everyday American folk don't know the details of all of that. Those details messing around and screwing them over when really they think that they're doing the right thing. We're not lawyers, we're not legal aides, and we definitely don't have legal backgrounds. Most of us are blue-collar Americans, electricians and plumbers and carpet layers and bartenders and, whatever. Most people didn't even understand that, the first time they gave up their right to a speedy trial was the last time they had access to one. Their attorneys don't tell them that. These attorneys don't give them good advice. They're not telling them what these steps, what the consequences of each step are going to be until well after the consequence is already there. And then they're like, oh, well, yeah, that's a thing. Well, that would have been nice to know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what they have here is a racketeering job that they're doing on the American public. The 1945 Foreign Immunities Act signed over all of the offices.
You have 1 minute remaining.
All the public offices over to the UN. And that's why they're able to implement the Agenda 2021, 2030, 2050 if they even have. So, the first thing is that we've got to correct the chain of title with the government, because we need to bring them back to a public government.
Right.
But anyway, I'm about to get off here, but thank you guys. And I think somebody wanted to get on here, but he'll have to call back.
Okay. All right, Mark. Well, thank you so much for calling in. You keep your head up, Patriot. We love you.
Yeah.
All right. You too, guys. Thank you. God bless. Bye.
God bless you.